Hello everyone, Eclecticism here. So today I want to go over my current knife collection. Uh, what I'm counting as a knife in my collection today is going to essentially include all of my knives except for one, the multi-tools and Swiss Army knives, because I don't count those as a rule, more so because they're their own category things, you know. I have a separate collection of multi-tools Swiss Army knives, at least in my view. I see them as something warning their own video, but I don't see them as their own knife. You know, I don't see them as, say, their own screwdriver, their own bottle opener, things like that, you know? And second, I'm not counting your typical generic knives. What you'd see from, say, Ozark Trail at Walmart, what you'd see from even Frost Cutlery, or something more generic and branding like that. I do have a few like that, of course, but they're more throwaway beater knives. I don't count them as part of my collection, even though I do have them. With that said, however, there is one exception to that we'll go over in the video that I think is honestly more so just kind of funny. But with that said, I'll go over the knives I currently do have. So, the first one that I want to show off is my Kershaw Cryo. Now, this knife is my first quote-unquote real knife. This was one I got a while back from Field and Stream. It's not a horrible knife, admittedly. 2.8-inch blade. I believe it's made out of 8CR13 MOV steel, but I'm not 100% certain on that. Let me see if it says so on here. It does not say. So, that's unfortunate. But that's what I recall it being, of the CRMOV style, 8CRMOV style of steel. So generally a lower on the hardness scale. Not horrible quality steel. What you'd expect from Kershaw, you know. They have good quality knives for the price. I paid about, I believe it was 40 bucks for this knife. And this thing has seen a decent bit of beating. So all things considered, it's gone through a lot, and I'm pretty content with it. The blade shape itself is proven well for your general EDC daily usage tasks. The frame lock has proven to be beefy, but what you'll notice from how I opened it, I didn't use the flipper on it. If you know anything about Kershaw Cryo, you'll know that it's assisted opening. Watch when I hit the flipper. Yeah, so I busted the flipper on this. I made it into a gravity knife of sorts by accident. Well, this knife is why I generally don't like assisted opening knives. Because when you beat them enough, they will break, and they'll lose the sort of reason that people tend to go for assisted opening, being that they're convenient, easy to open, and you put them on the fly if you're in danger. With a knife that only has 2.8 inches of steel, I wouldn't really use this in any sort of self-defense situation unless I absolutely had to. But for a first knife to use as an actual EDC knife, it's not bad. Not bad at all. And could do a lot worse. The pocket clip on it too. Very nice. Very easy. One of the best pocket clips I've had to date. So all things considered, very solid knife, and one I'm happy to have my first in my collection. So next up, the one I want to go over next, is an interesting one to me. This is the Kershaw Emerson. The Emerson is an interesting knife. For one, it's recently discontinued. Can't find this anywhere else. You can still find it on a few secondhand knife selling shops, but directly from Kershaw, you won't be able to find this. It's a unique sort of knife. If you look right here, above the little stud right here for you know, one-handed opening, you'll find this little catch right here. The gimmick with this knife is that if you have this catch aligned in a certain way in your pocket, when you pull it out of your pocket, this will pull against the fabric in your in your pants, and it'll open by itself without you having to do anything at all. It's a very interesting opening mechanism, and one that I'm happy to see on the knife. And it works pretty well. I've used it a bit. I've carried this knife around a few times, and as you could tell, it's beaten up a bit. Not heavily at all. Some scrapings here and there, like a little bit of dirt and grime on it. I have to do a more thorough cleaning. But solid knife. Liner, it's not, excuse me, not liner lock, frame lock, as you can see. What's the steel it's made out of, if I can see on it? I don't believe Kershaw put this on as well. If I had the packaging, I'd be able to see, but I believe it's made out of a similar steel as the Cryo, the CRMOV style. I could be mistaken on that, however, I haven't checked on that in a bit. But this knife, it came out of the packaging very sharp too. It also has a solid shape, frame lock, very standard sort of knife. But I really find it interesting because of that opening mechanism, because you'll just have it grind against it and it'll flip open against the fabric in your pants, just like that, without an issue. So I think it's an interesting knife, one I'm happy to own. Don't plan on getting rid of it anytime soon. So the next one that I want to show is my Schrade Chameleon. Now, I know Schrade is known for their best knives. They're a subsidy, I believe, of the Smith & Wesson brand knives. And if you know anything about Smith & Wesson, you know good guns, bad knives. Low quality steel, garbage sort of designs that aren't unique or inspiring anyway. Just not well liked. And Schrade is owned by the company that makes Smith & Wesson knives. But they're generally considered to make some, for the price, okay knives. You could do a lot worse. Now this Chameleon, I find it interesting. It was recently discontinued, actually. The Chameleon is called that because of the unique type of handle design. As you can see, holographic color changing handle. And as for the blade itself, I believe it's a Tanto blade, if I'm not mistaken. It has a regular sort of liner lock mechanism, but what I find interesting is that it has a safety on it. You flick this up, you won't be able to close it at all. And if you flick it up while it's shut, you'll find that even the assisted flipper on it doesn't work. And now I know what I said about assisted flippers. But with this one, I made an exception because I find the design and the handle very interesting. I haven't really seen one like this anywhere else, and of course this knife is discontinued, so it's good to have. The steel on it is not a very good steel. It's 434, as you can see right there. That's a pretty low-end steel. Of course, a lot of cheaper companies use it. CRKT is probably one of the better known ones that does. It is possible, of course, for it to be decent. The right heat treat can make any steel pretty worthwhile, along with a certain thickness of the blade. Seeing as this has a pretty thick blade relatively, I believe that's probably around maybe 1/15 of an inch, if I had to guess. Can't say for certainty, but it's got a good shape, fairly sharp too, out of the box. There's so much to say about it too, of course. The liner lock, I prefer frame lock, but to each their own. I know a lot of people prefer liner lock because it's easier from the open. For me, I've got bigger fingers, so I tend to find frame lock to not only be easier for me, but I also prefer the durability on it. But I don't really EDC this knife much. It's more one I have to collect, because I found the safety opening mechanism to be an interesting one. I don't see that many knives. But what I think is really interesting on this knife, as you can see there, design patent pending on there. I'm not sure what that might mean for the knife, if this adds any value to the knife itself, because I've looked online and other versions of this knife don't have that. So I'm not sure if this is a prototype of the knife, if it's an earlier version, or anything like that. If you know anything, let me know in the comments, because I can't find any information on that. But I find it to be personally interesting. Now, my next two are... Actually, no, I'll show those in a moment. My next one is my most recent one, Paraframe Mini from Gerber. Not what to say on it. Very small knife. It's only about let's see, what is it? Looks to be, yeah, it's about a 2-inch blade. That's right. No, that's right. The steel on it, I don't know, actually. I checked through the packaging. It didn't say on there, and I haven't looked it up in its own right. I believe it's, of course, I'm pretty sure it's a lower end steel, lower on the hardness scale. That's what Gerber tends to use. But I know their heat treat in recent years has been good, especially the Paraframe. So I figured the Paraframe Mini wouldn't be bad. I got this for only $8 at Walmart. I figured for a price like that, it's kind of a steal. And with the size of it, it's not what I plan on using at all, of course. It's a little bit too big for me to use as a keychain knife too, I think, especially because I already have a Swiss Army knife on my keychain. But I do find it interesting just to have, just to see how condensed knife design can be. I don't have the regular Paraframe, as a matter of fact, but I do plan on getting it at some point. It's just got a basic little frame lock. I find it to be very cute. Actually, this feels like something you'd give to a child, you know, their first knife. It's decently sharp, actually, for just coming out of the packaging. I haven't used it much yet. Maybe I'll do a review at some point on it, but for right now, I just find it to be a very interesting knife. Just because of the size and how it's condensed like that. It's not what I plan on using a bunch, but I think it's neat. And now my next one. My Spyderco Stretch. This, if you've seen my EDC video, is one of my two main EDC knives. Reason being is because of the size. I'm a big Spyderco fan, I'll preface. I love how they treat their blades. I love how they handle the grinds, the flat grinds. It always manages to keep an edge for me very decently compared to other knives, like say Kershaw. Your opening hole right there, it fits me best. Fits my thumbs very nicely. And in general, I found their knives to just be high quality. I'm a big Spyderco fan. Now, with that said, I went for this again because of the general rule set with self-defense knives is that you want to subtract 2 inches off of them because you're not going to be stabbing or slicing with the whole knife. So, seeing as this is about, if I recall, 4.5 inches, if I'm not mistaken, it's around there. Yeah, it's about 4.5 inches, yeah. So, with that, 2.5 inches for everything else. Very solid deal with the knife. This one is made out of ZDP 189 steel, so difficult to sharpen. I'll say that much. Very difficult to keep sharp and sharpen. I have to improve my sharpening technique at some point. When I do, maybe I'll make a video on how to sharpen. But I'm getting there. And I feel like ZDP is a very good steel for me to learn off of because it's extremely hard to sharpen. Pun intended, of course. It's the highest regular steel on the market on the Rockwell hardness scale. So naturally, it's a difficult one to sharpen, considering that. But this one, steel I found to be very durable. It does hold the edge pretty well too. I don't use this one for most regular tasks, but on occasion when I don't feel like grabbing my Delica, which I'll show in a minute, I find myself going for this, and it generally still keeps its edge pretty damn good. So I'm a fan of it. I really like the shape of the blade too. This top part is mostly an aesthetic choice, but I find that to be really pleasurable to the eye, I guess. Nice aesthetic. The blade itself, the drop point style is, you know, it's pretty standard, but it's very nice. You know, standard for a reason. Got a nice locking mechanism, which is one of my favorites, of course, because it's just very durable and very easy to use with one hand for me. The clip itself, it's a little bit tight, I won't lie, but I get used to it and kind of learn how to open it with one hand with a tight grip on the clip right here. But nonetheless, very good knife, one I'm happy to own. If you've seen my EDC video, I have more to say about it as well. So next is my Delica 4. This one, also ZDP, 189 steel. Sorry about that. A lot of traffic outside today for some reason. But anyway, this one is also ZDP 189 steel. It's about 2.5 inches, I believe. So not one I, of course, rely on for self-defense. So it's, of course, also difficult to sharpen. Lock back as well. Clip, this one's loose. I need to find a replacement screw somewhere. Not sure where I can find that. But, yeah. Similar things to say about this at the Stretch. Stretch, I forgot to mention, is also recently discontinued, which I find to be interesting as well. Delica, of course, is not... Everyone owns a Delica, you know. It's a rule to own a Delica at this point. But, yeah, I'm a big fan of this knife as well. Very good work knife, very good beater knife. I've done a lot with it. Going to keep doing a lot with it. I'm pretty happy with it. Now this next knife, before I go into my butterflies and my main fixed blade, I want to show a funny knife I got recently. This is the Doloreca. So what this is, does it remind you of anything? I got this at the Dollar Tree. Now what I wonder, what they could have been inspired off of. I wonder what this knife could have been inspired by. I'm using that word loosely. It's not like they ripped another knife off or anything, no. Yeah. It is absolutely just a Delica 4 ripoff from the Dollar Tree. It's made out of generic stainless steel. It's got a very bad serrated edge that's more pointy than sharp, if that makes sense. This little flipper right here, awkward to use. The lock back, it just feels cheap. The ball bearings inside the pivot there, you can just feel them grinding against the knife. You can actually kind of hear it very slightly. Not sure if it picks up on camera, but you can feel it grinding. You can feel the resistance on this knife. The cheap steel you can almost bend. You can almost bend it in place. And I mean, it's what you'd expect for a dollar store knife. But I picked it up because I find it really funny that they ripped off Delica 4 so blatantly. I mean, they even got a little plastic pocket clip. I don't know why you'd ever subject yourself to using that at all. And they've got a little lanyard hole, too, in case you want to carry this thing around, you know, as a neck knife. Because you pull this out, wham. Yeah, that's an intimidating one right there. The generic stainless design on it. Wow, that'll get you. I found that really funny. But beyond that, on to my Balusongs, or butterfly knives. This is a generic trainer I picked up. It's nothing too special. It flips well. Let me adjust the camera for you to see. It's a little bit loose in the joints there. They need to be screwed in a lot. But it does its job decently for a little cheap... I got it for $15 secondhand. It's a cheap little Balusong. It's nothing very special or worthwhile. But, I mean, it did its job of teaching me how to use butterfly knives pretty well. So, I can't complain too much about this. Next is another generic Balusong, because I cannot for the life of me find name brand regular butterfly knives. All I can seem to find are regular generic sort of Balusongs, this one included. This is of course an actual butterfly knife. Decently sharp blade. I mean, it's not the sharpest out there, but it's nicked me decent enough times. The flipping, oops, it does well. It's got a decent little noise to it. This one actually does have a locking mechanism on it. The other one, the trainer doesn't. This one also uses pins as opposed to screws, which I am a big fan of because the screws in the other one, like I said, always came loose, so I decided to screw them back in. But this is made by a company called Benchmark, which, if you know about them, they're just another sort of type of generic American-made type of brand. Nothing too spectacular you can find from them, but still, they produce. This is quality, honestly. I'm not sure what steel it's made out of. I couldn't find anything about this knife online, and the box did not contain anything either. But, I mean, this knife is... It's been a real fun flipper. I haven't used it much for any sort of EDC tasks. It's legal in my state. I live in Pennsylvania. And here, it's legal to carry Balusong anywhere you go, including one like this. As far as I'm aware, it's legal. But I haven't EDC'd it anywhere just because, a Balusong's scary, might run into issues or anything. But around the house, I've used it now and then when it's been around, and it does its job well. It's a solid knife. So last but not least will be my fixed blade. This. Now, here's the thing. I don't know which company made this, and I don't know anything about it. On the knife, whoops, didn't mean to bump the camera. It says Western USA. I don't know if you can see that fully. And its blade is interesting. You'd think from first glance it's a knife meant to be a sort of mall ninja knife. But I've used this for a decent bit of bushcraft stuff. I've even used it for very, very light bayoneting, because this isn't designed to be a bayoneting knife, it's a companion. But outside, in the bushcraft world, I've used this for a lot of basic chopping, a lot of basic wood shaving, wood carving, things like that, and this has served me well. It's nothing too spectacular, of course. I've got to do a little bit of work on it. It's a hollow grind, but it's decently thick, and it's well made, like handcrafted as well, you can tell, based on just the feel of it, the design of it too, and the age of it. I know it's decently old, but I can't seem to find anything on it at all, so I don't know what steel exactly it's made out of. But even for just a hollow grind, it's a very solid little knife. Of course, I want to get more name brand sort of companions and whatnot, but this I got pretty cheap, so I can't really complain too much. It even came with this nice little sheath, too, which I'm happy with. Now with that said, that covers all of my main knives. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I just thought it'd be interesting to share my knives, see what people thought of them, and just get them out there for people to see, There's nothing too spectacular in there, a lot of them are standard, but I think it's an interesting collection and one I'm happy to see some thoughts on. Feel free to share your collection down below in the comment section as well. I'm interested to hear. But with that said, as always folks, stay safe, have a good day.